So after lots of planning and then lots more, I think I figured out where I want to put everything in my shipping container turned hatchery. I'm really surprised how long this took, but I have to plan this out right because particularly the electrical can't be changed once it's installed. So if you see anything in this video that you think I should change, please let me know, because before you know it, everything will be up and running, or at least there'll be power in here. So what I've done for now is mark everything with green tape. That way I can visualize sort of where things go, and I can explain where everything is. So starting in the far corner here, where the salt is going to be where salt storage is going to go. I got a really good deal on these buckets. Normally I do use the boxes. So if I switch back to the boxes or even continue to use these, I can stack them right to the ceiling here, and that should fit more than a pallet's worth. The main panel will go here. I'm planning on a 60 amp panel with a generator hookup. This will come from the 200 amp service in my house. I already have a second 60 amp panel in my house. That way I can run my fish tanks directly off a generator. Over here on the small wall, I have just a little rack, which is going to be either live food overflow or a bonus rack if I want to get other random fish and other personal projects. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to have 3 rows of outlets at the end of every rack. While a lot of the tanks will be plumbed together, some will run independently. And these days everything has such a short cord, so I want to have as many outlets as possible without going too overboard, since obviously I got to pay for them. So here is where the main heater will go. While I do want to get a propane heater soon, I'm going to start with electrical just because it's much cheaper to install. I can just plug it into an outlet here. And then I'm going to get a little folding mini desk so that I can sit here. While I don't really plan on hanging out here, I definitely do plan on spending many hours doing maintenance, and there'll be times where I want to take a break. My house is just right here, but instead of going back and forth, it'll be good to have a little bit of a spot to hang out too. It's obviously going to get really humid. So the first of 2 vents is going to go here. They're just going to be like greenhouse style vents. So I have 2 feet of extra space here. This is actually the only space in the container that's not really accounted for. If there's any measuring errors, I can use this space. Otherwise, things like tubing and random things can be stored here on a little shelf. So the first rack will go here. All these spaces are basically a foot across. So most of the racks I'm going to do are 8 feet long. So this would be 9 10-gallon tanks across. And then in between the racks, I will have all the outlets, and then I will try and run as many on separate breakers as possible. This way, if something trips, everything won't go. And then if I ever need to plug anything in that takes up a lot of power, like a pressure washer, I can put it on the panel and not blow the fuse. So the next rack will go here, and then there'll be more outlets here. And then here's where the sump will go at the back. So right now I just have this 100-gallon stock tank. I am going to use it in probably an IBC tote cut in half. I can always change this part later. But I do want to put an IBC tote up high here. That will hold the freshwater reservoir, and maybe even a mixing one below it. That part I can figure out later. The second vent will go back here. So there'll be one in this corner and then one in that corner. I'll have a lot of electrical here because the sump will go here, so any big pumps and whatnot can be plugged in here. I'm going to hang the RODI here and then have a second heater here. So while I am starting with electrical and want to go to propane, this one will remain electrical. That way I'll have 2 separate sources of heat in the future. It is unlikely that both electric heaters would fail anyways, but there could always be a propane problem, so it's best to have 2 options. I'm going to get a sink to go here. It's going on this side so that I can drill a hole here and just run the wastewater into my yard. There's no toilet or anything in here, so there's no real reason to run this to septic. I think it should be fine like that. And then the one rack I have constructed already is already in place. So I haven't put any cross beams in the middle because I haven't decided on tank size yet. The top will be 10 gallons. I just have tubs there now. And then the bottom will be larger tanks. For the other racks, I don't plan on putting larger tanks at the bottom. That way I can leave enough space so that I can put rotifers and phytoplankton at the very bottom and they can sit right on the floor. That way I'm using the space from the very bottom all the way up to the very top. So that pretty much does it. There will be at least 1, 2, 3 full-size racks, and then a half rack here, potentially 1 more full-size rack here, but this part can be decided later. The IBC totes are cheaper than buying aquariums, and when I'm growing out fish, it makes more sense to keep them all in one big tank. But that part can change. As far as the electrical though, having them between the racks like this, and then having a separate breaker for things like the heaters, I think that pretty much covers it all. If you do have any suggestions, please let me know. I am trying to use this space as efficiently as possible, and I'm really not the greatest at DIY projects, so this is quite the undertaking for me. I would have thought by now I'd be further along, but I think once I get the electrical in, I could have a tank running the same day. I will also, of course, have to get water. I haven't figured out yet how I'm gonna do that. The most likely scenario is from my house, but my well is actually just right here, so I could even run it from that. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, thanks for helping, and happy reefing.